Welcome back. I'm Michael Smith, editor of the Galveston County Daily News. I'm here at the Sea Star base on Ophats Bayou in Galveston, Texas with my co-moderator Gina Spagnolia.
Hey, welcome back everyone.
President and Chief Executive Officer of the Galveston Chamber of Commerce. We're about to do our final round of candidate interviews for the day. We are up to District 3 now, and we've got the full slate of candidates here, which is good. So Gina, you want to kick us off?
Well, thank you all for taking time to be here. And for those of you that had joined us this morning with the mayoral and then going through 1 and 2, I know it's been an exciting day for you, and it's just getting better. And I just wanted to say I just felt so great that there's so many just really great candidates with the heart to do the best for this city. And I invite you to stay tuned, stay with us for the next hour and get to know these candidates a little better. We like this format. It's much more casual format than you typically see with the live events. And so stay with us. Thank you. And thank you all so much. We know you've got so many things before you, but thanks for taking time for being here. Do you want me to start off with our 2 minutes each candidate, and we would like for you to just give your opening statement and platform and whatever you want to say.
All right, thank you, Gina. And thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for having us here today, and thanks to the Galveston County Daily News for sponsoring this event, and thanks to the Sea Star base for inviting us into this wonderful facility. As I was telling Michael and Gina, I'd never been here before, and it is really a gorgeous facility. So we're really happy to be here, and thanks to my opponents for coming out to make this a full slate of candidates today. I'm David Collins. I am your District 3 City Council representative. I have been that for the last 2.5 years now because of the delayed election. And I've truly enjoyed it. I've enjoyed serving the people of Galveston, and I'm running again because I think we're doing a very good job at the city. This is a great council to work with. I have worked individually and in a group with each and every one of those other council members, and I think we've done a tremendous job. We've accomplished a great deal. We've moved forward on infrastructure. We've moved forward on finances. We are cutting taxes this year. We're reducing city budget, and we're reducing headcount everywhere but in public safety. We've also gotten the police pension fund straightened out after 20 years of sketchy management. That's put us on a really good, solid footing. So we're getting along really well these days with the Galveston Municipal Police Officers Association and our firefighters union 571. So it's been a great couple of years. We've got a lot of good things going on, and I think we can keep that momentum going. We're getting a lot of streets paved. We're getting a lot of things figured out financially. There's been some talk that the city is in bad shape financially, and it's not at all. We are in good, sound financial condition. We are able to cut taxes, as a matter of fact. That shows that we are managing the city's finances properly. We're also in really good shape where hurricane preparedness is concerned. I don't know if we're going to talk about that more today, but Hurricane Laura was a great wake-up call for us to test out our hurricane procedures, and they worked flawlessly. If the storm had been 60, 70 miles further east, we'd have had a major storm on our hands. As it was, we got to test all of those procedures with nothing but a little surge rise downtown. Beyond that, everything worked flawlessly. So I'm really looking forward to this, the remainder of this campaign, and for being with you here today. Thanks.
My name is Wayne Holt, and I'm running also for the council position, District 3. Since I'm lesser known than these other two gentlemen on my left and right, I'll just give you a little bit of background very quickly. I retired to Galveston after 15 years with the City of Pasadena. I was a publications manager for the City of Pasadena, doing electronic and print publications, website, those type of things. I reside at the IBANS condominiums downtown. That's an historic building. It's on the National Registry of Historic Places, built around 1855, and I was the HOA president for 4 years there, and I'm currently the property manager, so I'm very familiar with the issues that need to be addressed when you're dealing with historic properties and maintaining and preserving the historical and heritage nature of our architecture here. I'm currently also the director of, and I'm going to give a little bit of plug here for animals, the Little Woman Home for Animals. I was on the board for 10 years, and I was made director last year. That's a nature preserve and no-kill shelter just south of Huntsville, and I'm going to give a plug for them, littlewomanhome.org. If you'd like to know more about my campaign, I'd like to invite you to my website, which is at holtfordistrict3.com. Just to sum up, since I've used a good bit of my time here and just giving you a little bit of background, just to sum up a little bit about why I'm here. I reviewed the March 18th video from our previous session when we had the candidate forum, and what a different world we're in now. What a different place we've come to, we've arrived at, and so we're having to deal with that now. COVID-19 has certainly reshaped our lives. There's no doubt about that, but in my opinion, I think changes were apparently needed even before that. I think what has happened is COVID has accelerated that process, and in the time we have remaining today through our questions and our comments, I'm hoping that I'll be able to reach out to those people that are watching and make a case for a different way of thinking about government, one that's less coercive and one that's more responsive. Thank you.
Frank Maceo here. I served on council from 2016 to 2018. A little bit about me. I'm a United States Marine. I am a graduate of O'Connell Catholic School. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 19, right out of here in Galveston. I'm also a Texas Aggie, and like I said, a former council representative here in Galveston. I lost my last election by 5 votes. Not enough, but enough for the election. You know, a few of my guys that went before me spoke on infrastructure, and I want to say that I want it to be real clear that the infrastructure that you're seeing happening, to include 45th Street, all of it comes from the 2017 capital improvement plan, which I was a part of, getting passed, getting done, getting prioritized. And what we did during that is we took a look at every single street in the city, prioritized them, triaged them, and then set to work doing it. We did it with $260 million worth of bond money and tax money, and we're not done yet. In 2020, I guess it'd be 2022, we're going to be looking at doing another 5-year capital improvement plan. We're going to be looking at redistricting the state and really the island as well. And we're coming out of a COVID recession. And if you look at me, as opposed to the other two guys, I mean, you know, I'm running for change, guys. I'm running for change. I'm running to start incentivizing what we need here on the island to live here on the island. And it's a great thing that 30%. You can get a 30% discount on your taxes if you remodel a historic home, but that doesn't do anything to bring the young middle class here, open up the government to them, and encourage their participation. Now, I've been doing that through polling locations on Pelican Island. I've done it through advocating with my city council for 7-to-7 voting, for early voting, and it's to no avail. So now I have a reason to run.
Time.
That's a good place to
and
stop.
there's
That's
the
a
time.
good place
Thank
to stop.
you.
And time. Thank you all. We're going to start with Mr. Collins, who drew the number 1 seat, and then each of you will be able to be first in the next question. Mr. Collins, how would you describe your district to our viewers? And after your term, should you be reelected and the 2.5 years that you've served, what does success look like for your district? If you could describe it, and then how do you look back and say, you know, I did well. This is success.
District 3 is the city east of 25th Street, north of Broadway, but it also includes Pelican Island and the east end of the island, and oddly, because of the way census tracts are set up, wraps around and comes back down the face of the seawall, so that the pleasure pier is actually also in District 3. But A&M is in District 3, as is downtown, as is UTMB. So it's a very diverse district. It's also the beating heart of our commercial district. And I think one of the things that we've done is focus more on improvements downtown, trying to make it a better place to work, a better place to live, and a better place to visit. Because I think everyone knows that a nice place to live is a good place to visit, and we are a tourist economy, but we can't focus strictly on the tourism. We need to make this a better place to live for the city. I'm also the city's ex officio representative to the park board, so I'm a park board trustee, and one of the things that we're working very well over there on is a cultural arts master plan. How do we make this a cool place to be? How do we make it a cool place to live? Even if another tourist never came to town, how would we make this a nice place to live and to raise children ourselves? The number one challenge I think that we have is the infrastructure, because water is always a problem for us. We live close to water, and as Frank said, there's a capital improvement plan, but there is a capital improvement plan that's rolling capital improvement. So we redo the capital improvement plan every year. So it's a 5-year rolling capital improvement plan, and every year we look at what we've done, we add things to it, we add another year out on the end of it, and figure out how we're going to make this island more resilient, how we can better guard ourselves against hurricanes, and again, make it a more pleasant place, because what we like is streets that are paved, drainage that works. Drainage is the number one issue, I think, downtown and in much of the East End and much of the island. So that is one of our number one focuses over the next 2 years.
Thank you. Same question, would you like for me to repeat it?
I think that what I see is the primary difference between myself and the other two gentlemen here, and I always start everything, every public pronouncement that I've made, thanking both of them. They have done, I think, a good job in providing for the district the kind of amenities that people have asked for, those type of things. I have no question about that, and I would like to thank them for their respective public service. I think the reason why I'm in the race and why I think going forward it's going to be important to look in a different way is our community and our country is facing challenges that we've never faced. I think some people say since the Civil War, and some people say since our beginning in the Revolutionary War. We have challenges economically, we have challenges in our racial relationships, we have challenges in our public health issues that will be becoming even more prevalent going forward. We have to get these issues correct. So my focus and in speaking to people has been, think of District 3 as a keystone district. It's a district that, because of its economic, its cultural, its architectural, it's as David said, it's the beating heart of the city, not just commercially, but in many different respects. So we have a custodial relationship, I think, with the city. We have a relationship and an obligation with the city to provide the type of leadership that's going to be appropriate for the future. This is in no way denigrates the work that either of these gentlemen have done, but I think that we need to be beginning to look in a much more global view. This is certainly an international city. We rely on international trade, and we rely on that type of commerce. We also should be developing more of our B2B and second tier support for businesses. One of the things that I had written about, and I've written extensively, Michael Smith, if he's tuned into any of the ongoing discussions, has probably rolled his eyes once or twice because I was on there so often, but I've been advocating for small businesses and medium businesses and for the protection of those businesses. I asked, let me just finish with this, if I may. In March, way back in March, I said the damage being done, especially to small and medium-sized enterprises, is reaching a critical mass. We must get out in front of the economic damage in the same way we're trying to stay ahead of the medical emergency.
Mr. Macy, how would you describe your district, and what is the one thing that success would look like, looking back in another couple of years that you said, well done, I did what I set out to do. So describe it and how you see your district.
Well, I think you can measure success simply by looking at, well, one of the biggest accomplishments of my 2 years, one of my biggest accomplishments of my 2 years on council was that 2017 capital improvement plan. Every street in town was triaged and put on a list and paid for also. Some other big accomplishments that or other measures of success that I could claim is the the audit of city assets that we initiated when I was on council. A lot of good's come out of that. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but we took a look at the park board, we took a look at the wars board, and boy, the books are open now, and there's a lot better communication and a lot better work getting done. How would I describe District 3? I'd describe District 3 as Galveston. All the other districts could go by the wayside, and Galveston could represent every bit of the island, save maybe the west end, because they're a little country out there. But as far as the rest of the districts go, it is Galveston, and that's where people live, that's where they work, that's where they play, and not to mention the beaches. And taking care of them is important, and that's why I supported $260 million worth of infrastructure and capital improvement plans and drainage plans to take care of my island. That's that.
They're saying that they can't hear me speaking.
Pick it up, Gina.
Okay.
Who's next?
Can y'all hear me? I hope you can. All right, you're next with your question. And
Who's the target?
Mr.
Who's
Holt.
the next target?
Wait.
Mr. Holt. Okay, we'll start with one I've lobbed at basically everybody. What do you think of the property tax rate? And if you think it's too high, what would you propose to, where would you propose to make cuts? And which programs, services, people, how would you do it?
I think most people know that Texas has a unique system of supporting itself, and that goes all the way down from the state all the way down, of course, to our municipalities. We have one of the highest property tax rates in the United States because we don't have a state income tax, and for various other reasons. The property tax, to a large extent, is not really in the city's purview of much control, since so much of that is is under school district requests, that type of thing. So we do have some constraints about that, and I don't think city officials should necessarily be pilloried because we have high tax rates. It's not all on their plate. With that said, and there's always that caveat. With that said, I do have reservations, and I do have differences of opinion with David about some of the salaries and what we've seen during the March video. Clint Stevens had brought up a question about salaries, particularly for our city manager, and David had mentioned that he felt it was competitive, that Mr. Maxwell had been offered from I believe you said $234 that he was making at the time, to Leander. The city of Leander had offered him about $315,000, quite a sizable improvement. My response to that, and I don't mean to be flippant, is it really doesn't make any difference. We have to work within the budget that our folks are able to shoulder, our businesses, our residents are able to shoulder and still be able to thrive. So if that was the case, and of course Leander's has a higher property tax rate, so it's in 2 counties, not just one. But if their budgets allow for that type of salary, then I understand that. We simply cannot be put in the position of running up salaries because other cities are doing that. We have to look at what we can record and what we think the candidate is worth paying.
Thank you.
What do you think about the city's property tax rate? And if you think it's too high, where would you propose to make cuts, and be specific? And what services, departments, among what people,
right,
employees?
So that tax rate, I tell you, it's is it high? Yeah, it's high. It could be lower, absolutely. But that's not the question. The question shouldn't be where are we going to start making cuts? Okay? The question needs to be, what do we need to do to increase the revenue that the city gets to keep? Okay? I'm sorry. Yeah, that way. Talking to that guy, I guess. So we need to keep more of what we make, okay? More of what we produce. And if we want to go into this post-COVID world, subsidizing rich folks to come down here and buy historic homes and fix them up, if that's what we want to keep doing, then we're going to continue to get a retiree demographic in this town, which we're already top heavy on. If we start looking at how we're going to prioritize what we incentivize or what we subsidize, whatever way you want to look at it, and we start figuring out ways to subsidize or incentivize middle class, working class families to live here, like our fire, our police, hell, state workers, county workers, if we start incentivizing those people to live here with the same gusto that we incentivize historic preservation, we might have a young middle class here in Galveston. But as long as we keep going down this same road, then I'm talking to these guys, but as long as we keep going down that same road, we're going to continue to see this demographic disparity between working class and retirees on the island. And we're never going to be able to get out of that. So we need to start opening our eyes on what we need to do to start incentivizing people to live here, pay full taxes, okay, and then take care of them once they're here. Once we do that, we need to make sure that we open it up, okay? We need to make sure we open it up, the government, to those people. When we close early voting at 8 to 5, when we close early voting at 8 to 5, that's telling all those people that work 8 to 5 that we don't want you to vote.
Time,
Okay,
sir.
good
That's
stop.
time.
That's
Stop.
a good stop.
Mr. Collins.
Thank you.
Yes,
Oh.
sir. would.
Repeat the question.
Absolutely. What do you think about the property tax rate? And if you think it's too high, where would you propose to make cuts? And what programs, services, among what people on the payroll?
In fact, we are cutting property taxes. We're cutting the property tax, the city's ad valorem tax rate, by about 2 cents this year. That's on the table right now. We'll be making a final vote on that just next week, as a matter of fact. And we raised the taxes last year by about that same amount in order to fund the police pension program, which has been mismanaged for many years. We have that on a path to solvency, and we said to people that as soon as we achieve that, we would remove that tax hike. We did that. In 2017, council added 3.5 cents to the tax rate, so that was mostly for infrastructure and building. So I don't know that the taxes are too high. It's just that, or rather, the tax rate is too high. Your taxes are probably too high. But as Wayne points out, we don't control a great deal of that. Your city taxes are about 25% of your tax bill. The school district and the county are the rest of it, and the city doesn't set the value on your property. That's the central appraisal district of the county. So we only have so much control over that. Where we've made cuts is in City Hall management. We've cut 2% of the budget this year. We cut 2% out of the budget last year, and we've reduced headcount at City Hall with the exception of our public safety. We will be cops this year because we need good police protection. So I think the answer is we have cut taxes. We have cut expenses at City Hall. We're trying to be as fiscally responsible as possible, and I think we're doing a fair job of that.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Who's next?
Frank?
Start with Mr. Maceo. Would you support the levying of additional user fees for beach access along the Galveston coast to capture revenues from day trippers? Currently, there is a fee structure in 5 of the 44 access points.
No, I think the beach user fee on the seawall is plenty. I think the park board is mandated by the state of Texas through the Open Beaches Act to maintain all those beaches, and I'm not so sure a beach user fee belongs out on the. I guess you're talking about the pocket parks and all the other beach accesses except for the seawall. Is that correct? Yeah, I don't.
Or current access
No,
points.
no, yeah, the open beaches. I'm in favor of open beaches. We don't need to be charging people to go to the beach. Not on a pocket park, seawall, where you're not paying to go to the beach. You're paying to park to go to the beach. It's a different story. But yeah, come on now, guys. We don't need to be squeezing these people out of every dime they got. No, absolutely not. If we did, I'd be fighting for residents to get in free, straight up. No question about that. But there's your answer to your question.
Thank you. Mr. Collins?
You're asking whether I would support increasing beach user access fees at the free spots on the west end?
That was the question. Would you support the levying of additional user fees for beach access along the Galveston coast to capture revenues from day trippers? Currently, there is a fee structure in 5 of the 44 current access points, was the question.
And that's because those 5 access points provide services to the day trippers. The places where there are no services provided, there is no cost. There, you can drive onto the beach for free. On the seawall, East Beach, Stewart Beach, and the pocket parks, we do charge because there are services there. There are restrooms, there's facilities, there are concessions there. As we build out west, if we want to add more restrooms and concessionaires, then I'm sure we will start charging for access out there. The difference is it's costly to move it's costly to put new facilities out there. It's costly to maintain them, it's costly to rebuild them after a hurricane. So we're cautious about doing that because they don't raise that much money. But I don't have the slightest problem overall in charging day trippers to come down here and use these facilities. We don't get hotel tax out of them. We don't get a lot of sales tax out of them. As we all know, there's a big proportion of the sale of the day trippers that, as they say, come down here with a $20 bill and a dirty t-shirt and never change either one. Now, we live and die by that tourist economy, but what we would like to see is a higher value tourist, people who come down, go to places besides the beach, who stay in hotels, visit our restaurants, visit our attractions, visit our museums. Those are the people we really want to attract. And I don't think we're gouging anyone. We're just charging for the services that are provided out there at those access points.
Thank you.
Well, this may be one of those rare moments in human history where 3 political opponents agree on something. You may want to save this tape.
We're saving it.
Very good, very good. I happen to agree with both Mr. Maceo and Mr. Collins on this. We have a somewhat of a conundrum here where we have people coming in, stocking up up the freeway here up on the mainland, and then coming and spending the day, and then we get to clean up the mess. Mr. Collins is correct that where we have an interest in providing services and that's going to be useful, we do certainly have, I think, an obligation to make sure that we're not footing the bill on that. But I do agree with Mr. Maceo also that the idea of taxing people to come in and use the beach and use the Texas beaches is not really what we want to be branded as. The question arises, and David touched on this, is how do you access, how do you get more of those resources? How do you get people coming in who are going to spend the money that way? I think that if questions come up, and I hope it does later on, and we talk about how events do that as we increase our ability in our shoulder season and our off season, if we can begin to use regular, frequent, interesting, creative, smaller events rather than the super large ones and try to accommodate those all, I think that what we'll see is a higher quality in the revenue stream that we're generating, and we'll be able to do that without looking like we're shaking down everyone that comes across the causeway.
Thank you.
I think you're up next for Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins will go first now.
Okay.
Right?
Well, following on.
Did you go first? You did.
Frank started that question.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, we're trying to do it fair. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Collins.
all right. Well, still kind of following on what Mr. Holt brought up about events. How would you rate the city? And this is not quite as relevant today
This year, no.
as it generally would be, but we can hope that this will be a problem again in the future. How would you rate the city's management of large events? And if it needs improvement, what would that entail?
There are always ways to improve the management of these events. But the fact is, some of these events are going to happen whether we like it or not. We didn't invent Mardi Gras. We sort of borrowed it, but it's taken on a life of its own. And I think the way we manage Mardi Gras today is best we can do to manage it. We have to keep a lid on it. If we have 150,000 people coming down here to party, the best thing we can do is charge them for it, gate it, and try to control it. Anyone who was here in 2010, 2011 will tell you that it was a zoo down there. The residents and the business owners downtown wanted it gated, wanted people wanted. They wanted the more control of it. They thought at the time it would keep the riffraff out. It seems that sometimes it only proved that the riffraff to get in the gate. But nonetheless, it has been, I think, an effective means of exercising the control we can on it. Biker rally is something else. Biker rally, it's a blessing and a curse. The biker rally in a good year brings $115 million worth of economic activity to the island over the course of 4 or 5 days. And the promoters have been excellent to work with. They bring their own security. They monitor who's here. They know when the gangs are here. They've done a very good job of that, I think. I know that people are unhappy with the event sometimes, but when they provide that much input into the economy, I think we have to consider them. Would we start, if we started over from scratch, would we say, let's invite Biker Rally down? Maybe not. And who knows, it may not be back. It's important to remember that we didn't cancel it this year, the promoter did, because she couldn't decide that what the situation was going to be around Halloween, whether we'd still be open, whether we'd be closed, and she had a lot of contracts that she had to put into place before she made that decision. On the flip side, Dickens will go on this year. It's an outdoor event, only perhaps 35,000 people over those 2 days, but it will go on this year, and I'm happy to see that.
So they have confirmed that?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, December 4th and 5th.
I think this of all the issues in the campaign, this is probably the one that's nearest and dearest, if you want to call it that, to my heart as a downtown resident. What David says is substantially true, but I think there's some other angles on this that need to be explored. I was looking over the 2017 review of the Lone Star Rally that it looked at the economic benefit, and David had mentioned that. And I think one thing we should keep in mind when we hear these large numbers bandied around, we need to look at some of the bases. And for instance, the hotel and occupancy tax, if we want to zero in on that, the hotel and occupancy tax receipts for Thursday through Saturday was shown as $302,000. The average for November is $164,000. So we're talking about $138,000 in difference that this rally in the 2016 rally made to the city. What we want to look at is the whole cost to the city, not just what we're bringing in, but what we're doing as far as businesses that close. I know several businesses that close. I know people in my building that leave the island. I believe David even mentioned that in March about people leaving the island. There are examples, and more than a few, that show we need to rethink how we do events. And my preference would be that taking some of the very creative people at the Convention and Visitors Bureau over there, and put them on a project of developing small events year-round, shoulder, cold weather, those type of events that are going to bring out people in smaller numbers, a consistent stream of revenue during the year. I'm not in favor, as this report said, to build more hotel rooms so that we can put in another 500,000 people, and then have our hoteliers, our short-term rental folks, have them scramble for the rest of the year for revenue. Let's leave them as they are. Let's have smaller scaled, human-sized events that have a better branding for the city of Galveston.
Thank you, Mr. Holt.
Thank you.
You want to hear it again? All right, sir. How would you rate the city's management of large events? And if you think it needs improvement, what would that improvement entail? How can we do it better if we need to?
These events we have, these events we have are, what's the word I'm looking for? Crucial to the economy of the island. And I know it's inconvenient, Mr. Holt, to have to hear the bikes and stuff and the Mardi Gras. But bottom line is, guys, this is a tourist community, and we that work here and try to make it here, we only get about 2.5 months, if 6 weeks, to do it in the summer. Okay, these events, man, they make it to where we can pay our rent and our light bill, and we can eat. And if it's a little bit loud, man, you just gotta put some earplugs in for the weekend. Seriously. You know, what would I do different? You know, I'd like to see over on that port property over there across from the Strand. I'd like to see that utilized as more of an event area. You know, maybe open up the Strand and put the event, part of it over there. Yeah, I'm open to any kind of discussion that we're talking. I know some people are talking about all kinds of crazy ideas for it, but you know, it's not a top priority for me to start changing up all these contracts. Do they need to be renegotiated coming up? Yeah, they do, and I'll be at that table to do it. But you know, once we get all the stakeholders in, yeah, we can have that discussion. But right now, I don't foresee any big changes to Mardi Gras Biker Rally whatsoever.
Thank you. We start with you this time? All right. God, why is this so complicated for us? Okay, mine's two-part. Which issue involving the Port of Galveston would you make a priority? And likewise with Pelican Island. Port of Galveston, Pelican Island, top priority for each.
Okay. I said back in February, I'd written in my campaign materials when I first joined the race that I thought a diversification of our economy was top priority. This was before a lot of the stuff was coming. We heard about COVID, but it was really not on everybody's lips like it is now. That's probably a poor analogy, but so the diversification of the economy, I think what we've seen is we've had a very brutal wake-up call about what can happen when a fundamentally tourist economy has the trapdoor pulled on it. And we can come back from that. We certainly can come back from that. It certainly doesn't mean that we're going to turn our back on any of the important tourism resource generators that we are used to. But what I think going forward, we need leadership on City Hall, and particularly in District 3, that's going to look at, for instance, UTMB as one of our major employers on the island. How can we begin to generate within our community itself the type of sustainability that Mr. Maceo talked about, which I agree with, rather than subsidizing? How can we enlarge the pie? And that pie needs to be something we can count on. When the cruise ships went away and we have a park board that had to cut their budget by 50%, we don't know how that's going to be changed in the future. We don't know how that's going to work. So it's incumbent on us in the future to have leadership that understands that. As I said, I wrote about that way back in February. I wrote many articles in the paper. I have a public record stating very clearly that I think it needs to be done. And so I would say that the most important thing that we need to do is to rethink how we're going to approach government, make it cooperative, don't make business the enemy, find out how we can all sit down together, as I did with Mike Dean and others, to find out how we can make this work together.
Thank you.
Top priority for the port, and then Pelican Island?
Top priority for the port, your top priority for the port, and Pelican Island.
What I'm going to do is wrap them up in one.
Okay.
The Port of Galveston has awesome rail access. Awesome. The hinterland is the entire Midwest. Okay. The future of the Port of Galveston is directly tied to the future of Pelican Island. In the maritime world, things move via intermodalism, which means they get on a ship, they get off a ship, they get on a rail, they go across the country, they get on a ship, and then they go to Spain. If we can tap into that rail access on Pelican Island, now we're talking serious business. A bridge is great. And I've been talking this since I was on council. And I always said, if I ever got to that table, this is what I'd be talking. I'd be talking rail access. And short of talking about serious rail access to Pelican Island, we'll never see the true potential of Pelican Island. It'll always be over there. There's only so many things you can take off a ship and put on a truck. Mm-hmm. Okay? Only so many things. So if we want to talk about the future of the port on a micro level, diversification, I agree with the gentleman on my right. But on a longer term, on a bigger term, more macro look at this, it's all about the rail access and getting rail access over there, because now all of a sudden you have the assets necessary for a maritime company, a shipping company, to go in there and say, yep, we're going to put a warehouse here, or, you know, whatever, a facility, anything. Without that rail access, you're limiting right off the bat. You know, 80% of the goods that transfer, 90% of the goods that transfer overseas. So I think it's short-sighted, and I would go as far as to say it's foolish to talk about a bridge to Pelican Island and not talk about rail access to Pelican Island.
Thank you. Mr. Collins?
Yeah, they're not necessarily two separate issues. I have the endorsement of the longshoremen here in Galveston, because I have been arguing that we need to diversify and maintain our cargo business at the port from day one. I argued long ago that it would only take one terrorist incident to cut the cruise ship business in half. Who knew that terrorist was going to come in the form of a coronavirus? We've seen exactly what our port is worth without the cruise industry. So we need to maintain cargo over here. And that's a top priority, and I think that's being looked at much more seriously now. It's a much hotter topic than it was, say, a year ago. As far as Pelican Island is concerned, the problem is and always has been the cost of that bridge. We know the bridge that's out there today is not good for more than 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, if we don't fix it, change it, to build a new one, there won't be anything but college students using that bridge. There certainly won't be trucks on it. The rail bridge is a great idea, except it would probably cost $250 to $300 million. And right this second, we're struggling to come up with the $91 million it will take to build just a highway bridge across there. The city has committed $5 million over the next several years of IDC funds, of your sales tax money, to fund that. The county has put $5 million into it. A&M has not put a nickel into it. The Port of Houston hasn't put any money into it. And so far, TxDOT, the Texas Department of Transportation, hasn't agreed to take ownership of that bridge once it's built. All of those things need to happen so that we can get to that $90 million, $91 million to build a new bridge out there. Without that bridge, there will not be economic development furthering on Pelican Island.
Thank you.
I think this is our final question, and then we'll close. And I think, Mr. Collins, you're it.
Is it me? I thought it was Frank. I think it's Frank.
Mr. Maceo?
Maceo.
All right. About the time we get done with this, I'll figure out how it works. So
I think it's you.
So what to close on here? Give me 1 second.
Give me a good one.
All right. Do you support the construction of a ring levee or similar structure that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says is essential to the function of the coastal spine? And if not that, what are you willing to support to make Galveston more resilient to hurricane, storm threats, and sea level rise?
I think I said this during the interviews. I guess it was in March or whatever. This question keeps coming up, and while it's a fun topic to discuss and think about and theorize on, and marry yourself to, I don't think anybody. I'm going to be an old man before that thing ever gets funded, much less built. What can we do as an island to encourage that? I think we need to be working with our federal, representatives, our state representatives. I think we need to. I don't know. Bottom line is, guys, it's a federal project, and the city of Galveston, short of saying, hey, we've got this little bit of, we don't want it to go over here, we don't want it to go over there, there's nothing we could do about it, guys. Okay, so that's really not the question I'd like to end on. But yeah, that's, now what can we do to battle the storm surge? Well, I'll tell you what we can do. We can write an ordinance tomorrow, okay, that incentivizes people. Once again, I'm going to use that word, incentivize, that incentivizes people to raise their homes 18 inches above floodplain, above base flood. Simple as that. If we can give people 35% off their taxes for historic preservation, we can give people the incentive, the tax incentives to raise their homes. And what we can do, just like our forefathers in my forefathers in 4 mothers, I should say, in 1900, what we can do is we can raise the entire island our own without the help of the federal government and without the help of the state government. And we can go in there with one little ordinance and we can start incentivizing people to raise their homes. And what that'll do over time is people will raise their homes. They will take advantage of that. In the East End, in the urban neighborhoods over here, I think you're already seeing it. It's just a matter of, are we incentivizing people to do it? No, is the question. So it's time we start looking at ideas to get people to live here, to make it easy for them once they live here, and to open up the government to the people that live here. That's all I got. Thank you.
Very good.
The answer is yes, we need to do something to control the water downtown, whether that's a ring levee or pump stations. However we do it, we need to do something about it. Someone once commented that the reason that ring levee itself is going to take, or not the ring levee, but the Ike Dike is going to take 30 years, it'll be 15 years of engineering and 15 years of litigation before we get around to actually doing something. So in the meantime, we are taking steps. Right this second, the city is in engineering with the feds to build a pump station in the 14th Street drainage basin. We're going to be doing it out there as a test bed to be sure that we can actually close off the outfalls and pump the water out when it's higher inside than it is outside. Simple as that. We're not just building a bowl, we're building a pump system that will help evacuate the water when it gets too high outside, or rather inside, as opposed to outside. We're building that with $30 million worth of federal funds that are coming from Hurricane Harvey. There's another one of them being contemplated for further west out on North Side, another one for Saluda Drive out there on English Bayou. So we have to take steps now to control this, because it's true, it will take us another 25, 30 years, even if it's funded, to ever get around to building the Ike Dike and the ring levee that goes with it. So the point is, we're taking steps now to manage this water. And that's what we have to do. I don't think we can raise the island. I don't think we can wait for 30 years for the feds to do something. We need to take action on it today. That's why we're doing so.
On my website, I have fairly extensive information about this because living downtown, of course, it affects me very directly. I think what both Mr. Maceo and Mr. Collins have said certainly have elements of truth. This would have been an easier question for us to probably to confront a few years ago. We're now in a situation with the federal government spending trillions of dollars to keep the economy afloat. I think it's going to be a more difficult sell to get some of these things. Getting the kind of support we're going to need, it is going to be billions and billions of dollars. I personally support the ring levee, and I think that there's even variations of that are being discussed. Downtown is wide open. If Laura had come in, it could come in around Beaumont or so, we'd probably be looking at what we had with Ike, 150-mile-an-hour winds and driving water into the bay. We're wide open down there. We get water in our streets when it's high tide. David knows that, and he's seen some of the elements of that, and he's gotten complaints from people about it. They're doing what they can. I think the pumping stations are certainly. I agree with that. I think that we need to be able to come to terms with what we can fiscally, and that's going to be much more constrained going forward. I don't know what really, as far as extensively raising houses, that's not going to help raising downtown, certainly. That's the beating heart of the city of Galveston. And so we have some difficult decisions ahead of us. My suggestion would be that we really, really get behind our state representatives, we get behind our organizations that are pushing this, and really let them know that we want a ring levee or some type of protection that at least will ameliorate the damage that we're going to see downtown for the next one that inevitably is going to come in.
Thank you. How are we doing on time? Final closing statements from each of you. And we're starting with Mr. Collins. Back to you.
Thanks once again to the Chamber of Commerce and to the Galveston County Daily News for hosting this forum. It's enjoyable. I enjoyed the one we did in the spring. It was incredibly informative, and I think this one serves the same purpose. I hope everyone goes back and looks at all of the interviews from today, especially the mayor's, this one and the mayor's forum from this morning. It was very informative. So thanks again, folks, for doing that. I'm David Collins. I am your District 3 City Council representative. I have been for about 2.5 years now because the election got delayed, and I hope to be for the next term as well. I enjoy the job. It's a lot of work, but I committed to the people of District 3 that I was going to be a good representative by communicating with them. That was my #1 pitch when I was talking to people. I went out and talked to everybody I could. I was not well known outside the East End. I didn't have a famous family name. I wasn't the incumbent, and I wasn't well funded. I barely won the election, but I did it because I went and told them I would talk to them. I would come and ask them what their opinion was, what they saw as problems. I would go to City Hall. I would work hard on those issues, and I would be a fiscally responsible representative, understanding all the while that it's their money, it's their property, they want someone to take care of it. And I've done that. But even more importantly, I've communicated back to them. I've put out a newsletter every month I've been in office, and it's been tremendously well received. People feel like I am communicating with them. I am giving information back to the people. That's the first time that's ever happened in this district. And so people really appreciate that, and that's what I'm committed to continue doing, to being fiscally responsible, to communicating with people, to understand their problems, and talk back to them, let them know what's going on. So I would appreciate your continued support, and once again, thanks to the Chamber and to the newspaper for this opportunity.
Again, I'll mention my name one more time, Wayne Holt. 4 years ago, the gentleman to my left would have been sitting here without any council experience. 2 years ago, the gentleman to my right would have had the same situation. So council experience is very important. As I mentioned at the beginning, I've spent 15 years in city government working with all city departments in Pasadena, so I am familiar with it. I'm not coming into this as a complete neophyte. I think that the philosophy of government is very important. I think more important than ever. This is not a political issue. This is not a personality issue. These are differences of how we govern ourselves as a free people. We're seeing, I think, in many instances, on the local level, on the national level, we're seeing a drift towards a lack of willingness to listen to others, a lack of willingness to come together to find a way to make it work for everybody. That's really what's going on. And I find it interesting that whether you're talking about crowds that are seeking racial justice, or you're talking about people that consider themselves to be American patriots that are looking for more voice in the government, we're seeking the same thing. We're seeking a return of our government. This is not about getting rid of government. It's about returning our government to us, we the people. And I firmly believe that that begins with getting everyone around a table, sitting down as I did with Mr. Flores and Mr. Dean, and finding out how can we figure out a way to make this work for us. Government has been, over the last 40 years or so, has become more and more coercive. We have emergency decrees. We have all sorts of things. Instead of going to the people and saying, how can we work out this? How can we educate you, give you the type of information you need to make the intelligent decisions that you're capable of? Instead, we come down with a heavy hammer on it. What I would like to see is a change in that. And I want to say, as I wrap up here, Mr. Collins is right. Communication is extremely important. This has been very difficult in this campaign, obviously, because you can't go door to door and knock on people's door and have the type of meetings that were familiar to us. If you'll go to my website, holdfordistrict3.com, you'll see that I have proposed expanding applications, the applications we have on our phones, so that people can people can attend meetings, people can have a voice in the democracy and in our representative government. Let's use the technology that we have as opposed to just doing it the old ways. Thank you.
Thank y'all again. I'm not going to waste too much time thanking everybody, but I did want to take note of what the previous two speakers have said. Sounds like Mr. Collins' closing statement has to do with accessibility, and Mr. Holt's closing statement revolves around returning the government to the people. Well, here's how we're going to do it, okay? Here's how we're going to do it. And I agree with all that 100%. Now, the question is, have you been thinking about how you're going to do it? Here's how we're going to do it. I have. Here's how we're going to do it. First thing we're going to do, day one, is we're going to write an ordinance that's going to extend the hours of early voting for municipal elections from 8 to 5 to 7 to 7. State elections do it. County elections do it. Federal elections do it. City of Galveston doesn't. That's nonsense. You want to talk about expanding access to the democratic process, gentlemen? Do that, and what you'll see is you'll start seeing participation. That's number one, 7 to 7 voting. Number two, when we hold city council meetings, the workshop at 9 and then the city council meeting at 1:15, we're doing, it may sound contrary, but we're not doing business in the light of day. And Mayor Yarbrough always taught me, do business in the light of day. We're going to be moving city council meetings to 5:15 p.m. That's just all there is to it. So when people get off of work, they can flip channel 16 on, take a look at what's going on, and if they feel like they need to come down and talk to council, they don't have to take off of work. They don't have to skip school. They don't have to do anything to sacrifice to reach their government. So when we do those two things, what you're going to find is you're going to find participation in government. And I think this is a problem going from the top down, okay, all the way to the presidency, all the way down to a city council race. The more people we have participating in the democratic process, the better and more moderate we'll be. You can't do that with 8 to 5 voting. You can't do it. You can't do it holding meetings at 1:00 p.m. You have to extend the government to the people. And that's what I'm going to bring to Galveston once I'm back on city council. And we're going to open up this government, and we're going to do business right in the light of day. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, gentlemen. And all the people in the room applauding. Thank you again for your time. Thanks so much for joining us. We asked you to share these videos, you know, as we were sitting here, and I've enjoyed this day so much. I've enjoyed moderating with you.
It's been a very good day.
As I was thinking about your district, I live in District 6, but I was sitting there and I loved our question about describing it. Wow, do you have a district? With UTMB and the port and Pelican Island and the heart and the district. I mean, what an honor to serve any of our districts on this fine island, but wow, that's a powerhouse. They're an important district. Thank you. Thank you, Michael, the Daily News.
Thank you. I was glad to be here. It was
we hope that you enjoyed it. Share it. These will be saved on our website, on your website, YouTube videos. Thank you so much, our videographers. We appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. to finish our district. So join us. I know you just won't be able to sleep in anticipation for District 4, 5, and 6. So thank you all so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank
we
you.
really
Good night.
appreciate your service. Bye.
Thanks a lot, guys.